630 WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Brian Eaman, Joe DeGenova in this morning on the Morning Majority. Joined now by Larry Kudlow, host of the Kudlow Report, 7 o'clock CNBC. You can watch him on the call this morning, 11 this morning, and host of the Larry Kudlow Radio Show. Heard Saturday nights at 7 o'clock here on WMAL. Larry, you know, I watch the show on a nightly basis, and one of your regular guests is a guy named Dougie Cass, and, you know, he's kind of a bear. He kind of predicted the demise in 2008, and he wrote a column yesterday that really got me a little bit worried. I want to get your take on it. When he essentially said, we're reliving 2008. 2011 is 2008 all over again. The dollar is weak. We've got, problems with oil, over $100 a barrel. We've got a weak housing market as well. But the stock market is still strong, and we are ripe for a big downturn. Do you agree with Doug Cass?
No, not really. I mean, Doug is living in 2008.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear you say that.
Doug is living in 2008. I don't think we are in 2008.
Okay.
By a long shot. And it's funny, he wrote that piece, and then he wrote a follow-up piece to it where he said that I had this recession right, but we're not in a recession, and profits are rising, and they're rising a lot. I want to emphasize that. It's a little boring, corporate profits, I know, but in 2008, profits have been falling for over a year, and profits, as I say over and over again, are the mother's milk of stocks and business and the economy. So you're getting reports now for the first quarter for profits. They're growing about 18%, and back in 2008, they were falling. They were falling all over the place, and it was a huge signal of recession, and also the stock market wasn't really very strong in 2008. It had moments, but it wasn't really very strong. The peak was back in a year earlier in 2007, October 2007, as a matter of fact. And we're not on the cusp of a credit crisis at all. In fact, we have more money than we know what to do with. That's the reason the dollar's falling this time. And I agree that oil price is rising, but I will say this. You know, the big story in Wall Street is Ben Bernanke's news conference tomorrow afternoon, and I think he's going to announce the end of QE2. Now, that's not a big surprise, but I think he's going to hint strongly. QE2 ends in June. He'll probably say that tomorrow, reaffirm that, and I do not think there'll be any hints of a QE3.
All right. Now, I've heard a couple of different arguments on this. Some people say that it's good for Bernanke to have a press conference and take tough questions from the press. Other people say, you know what, it may not be the best route. Where do you fall?
Oh, I think I fall out. The press conference is good.
Okay.
It's good. The Fed should face the music. They should face the reporters. I don't have any problem with that. I hope he handles himself okay, and I think he probably will. But what I was going to say is that if you print fewer dollars, or let's say if you stop printing new dollars, which is the end of QE2, the chances are the dollar will go up, not down. I want to say that. I guess it's a contrary view in the world. The chances are the dollar will go up, not down.
The dollar becomes stronger because there's less liquidity in the market.
The fewer dollars, that's correct. And I don't want to say stronger. I just want to say the dollar is fundamentally weak for a lot of reasons, including the Fed, including the budget, including fears that we're going to go bankrupt. But the dollar may not keep falling, and so the consensus may be surprised, including Doug. And oil prices may fall a bit. If oil is trading off a weak dollar, which I think it is, then oil may go up, not down. Gold. I'm saying oil may go down, not up. Gold may go down, not up. See, I think that they're very frothy markets right now, and if they're banking on Bernanke to keep pumping money, I think people are going to be wrong. I think the markets could reverse course, and actually stocks could slip a bit on this, the so-called risk trade, which is betting on the Fed's easy money. So I think... Anyway, I'm a contrarian on this point.
So, Larry, Joe DeGenova,
hey, Joe.
On the gas prices, I was sort of amazed to watch the president the other day do his shtick about all this. They're establishing a task force to look into, price fixing and gouging and all that stuff, and looking at speculators. I mean, this was really a rerun. I mean, pretty pathetic and weak from a president, don't you think?
I do. It's just liberal left pap. That's all all it is. And we've seen. I guess most presidents do this. I don't recall if W did this or not.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. Actually, he was such a realist about the oil and gas industry because he knew it that he couldn't bring himself to say crazy stuff like this.
Yeah, I mean, back in July of '08, when oil was moving to 150,
right?
Bush actually lifted the ban on drilling, on offshore drilling, and I thought that was pretty good. A bunch of us had been urging him to do that, and he finally did it. And oil prices, by the way, went down.
Yeah, there's a little pressure left off.
Right. Sure, people speculate on oil contracts, so what's wrong with that?
Well, isn't that what the market requires?
That's what markets require. And the other point, as you see yesterday, the EPA said no to Shell for drilling up in Alaska. They had already plunked in $4 billion of some such of investment for what people think is a find of about 27 billion barrels of oil. 27 billion barrels of oil up in the Alaska coast. And the EPA said, no, you can't do it because some ice-breaking ship or something has not passed all of its litmus tests. So that's the problem with the Obama administration.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that their philosophy and their policy is to decrease domestic production, to force higher prices, to encourage the development of alternative fuels. And this has now become so obvious and transparent, it's pretty silly for them to deny it.
Well, you may be right on that.
Now, hold on. House Speaker John Boehner made some news a little bit yesterday. He told ABC that he could consider cutting the multi-billion-dollar subsidies to oil companies.
Boehner said this?
Yeah, Boehner said that yesterday, which was...
I know Obama said that.
John Boehner said it yesterday to ABC News.
I think that's looked dumb. Let me just say, these subsidies to oil companies, quote unquote, are the normal investment expense deductions that any business makes regarding the depreciation and the write-offs for new investment. That's what they are. So what you're saying is you want to change the tax code against oil and gas companies to take away the normal write-offs that other businesses have. And I think that's nuts. I think that's just dead wrong. And what you'll get out of that is lower profits and less drilling. So I think it's absolutely, and let me also say, when you're going to get these reports this week, profit reports.
Huge reports.
Big bucks.
ExxonMobil. They're going to report huge profits. They're also going to report huge tax payments. I mean, ExxonMobil, for example, I forget which year it was, but it was one of the past couple years. It might have been 2008.
It probably was.
They paid more taxes, more corporate taxes, than the entire bottom half of individuals paying the income tax. I mean, they're going to wind up paying $50-60 billion in taxes just because, they report profits and they pay them. It's a huge profit machine throwing off revenues to lower the budget deficit, and they play by the rules. So if you want to have corporate tax reform, and there was talk yesterday that Obama's coming out with a corporate tax reform, that's fine. Would lower the top rate to 26%. That could be fine. But I want to see what they do with things like depreciation, because those are the normal expenses that firms use or take to write off their investment. And by the way, investment creates jobs. I mean, if you'd unleash these American oil companies, there'll be gigantic job creators as well as oil and gasoline creators.
All right, Larry. Good to talk to you as always. We appreciate your time. We'll do it again next week.
All right.
Larry Kudlow, host